Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Vancouver. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Randy Bueller to take a look at the tail of the tape here as we head down to the feature match area for our finals. Dan Lanthier versus Robbie Schmidt. We've got Robbie playing Affinity, Randy.
Yep.
Against Dan, who is on, by the way, occupation Powerful Wizard, so we'll see. And he's on Splinter Twin.
Yeah, the more things change in Modern, the more sometimes they just kind of stay the same.
It's true.
Splinter Twin and Affinity have been duking it out for Modern titles as long as the formats existed, pretty much.
Indeed. So here's Robbie. He's going to be on the play here as the second seed coming in. And that's going to give him a big leg up in trying to become the Grand Prix Vancouver champion here, as being on the play in this matchup, as with most, is pretty big, especially for Affinity. He can assemble a lot of power very quickly and try to shut the door on Dan before he even gets his legs under him, especially for cards like Remand, reactive cards that we saw Dan use very effectively in the semifinals against Florian Koch playing Abzan. They're not going to be as good against Robbie Schmidt. His cards are either free or cheap, and he can deploy them very quickly, like this. Thank you,
Ravager
Robbie,
into Mox Opal into Signal Pest.
Wow. Huge
so
turn two here for
Two Signal
Robbie.
Pests means he's attacking for what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 next turn, even before he activates any Nexi.
And Dan Lanthier hasn't played a second land as of yet. I mean, we are talking about an explosive start from Robbie Schmidt here.
Yeah, this is a tough game for Splinter Twin. He looks like he might even have the combo in his hand. There's Lanthier, former Canadian national champion, been on the team a couple of times. First Grand Prix top 8, but he has come close on multiple occasions. Yeah, does what he can. Flame Slash your Ravager. He's basically, it's like sometimes you got to put a man to a test.
It's true.
How do you want to play your Ravager? Do you want to sack 4 artifacts and have a 5/5 Ravager?
And you know what?
Do you want to distribute these counters somewhere?
Like.
Well, he may also just eat the artifacts that he doesn't feel like he needs anymore, while he's got the opportunity to turn them into +1/+1 counters. Mox Opal did its job.
Okay. Mox Opal did his job. He could even have another one in his hand. And there's the Ornithopter now.
His hand is land cranial plating?
No
Are you
way.
kidding?
Wow. Does this resolve? Yes.
For one island? What's he going to do with one island? I guess he could
spell snare. I think he's only got one in his list, though.
Yeah, one spell snare.
One spell snare, and he didn't have it here, and smash. Robbie Schmidt hits the red zone here.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plus the cranial plating, so 7, 8, 9, 10. I count 10.
Whoa.
Looks like I pass.
Yeah, your move, Dan. So 1 turn clock here for Lanthier. He needs to come up with something, and quickly. They're just double checking the math to make sure that he took the correct amount of damage, and it looks like he did. So can Dan come up with it here? He
Lightning Bolt's pretty good.
That's interesting.
Definitely.
Now, unfortunately for him, the Ornithopter's out of range. So if Robbie Schmidt wants to play around Lightning Bolt specifically, he can move the plating onto the Ornithopter.
Wow, he's got an Electrolyze too. On this board, Electrolyze is pretty nuts.
Actually, quite good.
Kills both pests, and one of the pests is what's currently wearing the cranial plating. I mean, does Robbie want to move plating onto Ornithopter? I mean, right now he's sort of diversified his threats, but his odds of connecting with cranial plating creature go up if he puts it on something with 4 toughness.
He still doesn't have 2 black to move it, right?
At instant speed, right. He can move it for 1 colorless in his main phase.
He's just got the 1 Glimmer Void down there. Well, that Mox Opal would have come in quite handy here, interestingly. Flame Slash ended up taking out the Ravager and the Opal, moving a couple of counters over to Ornithopter, which got it out of Lightning Bolt range. It doesn't look like Robbie's going to be able to kill Dan this turn, kind of no matter how he does it, right?
If he moves cranial plating
to the Ornithopter, he's going to lose both Signal Pests, which is what's happening here.
Here's Electrolyze. Yeah, I agree. I don't think there was any lethal play through Electrolyze.
Now,
Robbie wasn't psychic, so.
Right, and Robbie can, and I think even if he was, he wouldn't be able to kill through that.
No, but he would have cranial plating on Ornithopter. If he knew Dan's hand,
he would.
That Ornithopter would be wearing a plating.
which would get it in there for 4 up to 6. Now, Robbie could still activate either of his Nexus, the Blink Moth or the Ink Moth, but he declines that option.
Did you draw something?
He sure did, an Overseer, and he can even equip Plating. He's actually going to equip it to the Overseer. Interesting. That's his more fragile creature of the two. But he is diversifying once again.
What is he worried about having happen to the Ornithopter? Cryptic Command?
Yes, maybe. Does he think that there's another Flame Slash?
I mean, Pestromite and Exarch obviously would tap the Ornithopter. I mean, they're going to tap whatever creature has the plating on it. I think he figures those 6 tap creatures, plus even the possibility of the bounce. He doesn't want to have all of his eggs in that one basket. He wants to kind of diversify his threats. The fact that Dan's hand is a bunch of removal spells.
Ooh, he's going to try to go for it here. If he can hit a land, he can bolt here.
Did he hit the land? He did hit the land.
Right off the top. And now he can finish off Ornithopter with Lightning Bolt here. Whoa. Does he have it? He does have a bolt, right?
Yeah.
This is a huge swing. Oh, this is interesting. He can't get a mountain. So he's going to take 2 one way or the other. It's a Misty Rainforest, so he can go get a Steam Vents, but ouch.
Yeah.
Down to 4.
I mean, you do what you got to do. Affinity Dex tends to deal its damage in giant chunks. I mean, he's got to be a little worried about that Blink Moth Nexus.
Exactly.
And what's the Galvanic? 3 Galvanic Blasts for Robbie Schmidt.
Yeah,
that just came into range.
Robbie's been working those pretty nicely all weekend as well. And there it is.
Still, this line looks just correct.
Looks great. Also, I saw that Dan Lanthier has in his hand Splinter Twin. I don't know if he's got one of the other combo pieces, though I did see a Snapcaster Mage as well, which is going to make it hard for Robbie to win. Now, activate
Blink Moth, equip it with Cranial Plating, hits for 2, right?
For 3.
Extra land, now it hits for 3.
That's 3, and that's 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yep.
So that's game right there. Robbie Schmidt takes the game. 10 Lanthier looked to be stabilized, but Robbie had it.
Yep.
He doesn't look too concerned about things.
Game 1.
Game 1. He's like,
supposed to win game 1.
I got some more work. Exactly, that is true. He is supposed to win game 1, and he got pretty close to not winning game 1 there.
Pretty close.
Yeah, like if that was a Scalding Tarn, he could have got a mountain, been up a life there.
Sure.
You know, that close sometimes.
Lanthier's sideboard has 2 copies of Ancient Grudge, 1 Shatterstorm.
Okay.
So sort of 3 dedicated anti-affinity cards. I mean, he's got other cards he'll bring in. Engineered Explosives is obviously useful. Spellskite will come in. Sower's not unreasonable. I mean, he's got tools, but in terms of the, like, you know, top 5 or 10 hate cards that the Affinity player wants a count of, 3 is what Lanthier's got, which is kind of about what everybody seems to have this weekend.
That's kind of the mid-ground for this.
And that's kind of why Affinity's playing for the final.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right.
You know, if everybody's down to 3 dedicated hate cards, you know what? You can run the table on day 1 like Robbie Schmidt did. You can get to the finals, and you know what? He's drawn very live to win this Grand Prix right now.
It does feel like 3 dedicated sideboard slots for Affinity is about as low as people go. Like that deck just has such a target on its back ever since, you know, it was printed.
Right, we're kind of at the low ebb.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I've been pointing to this Frank Harston quote all weekend. Affinity's at its best when it's bad.
Yeah.
I think there's implied scare quotes. It's at its best when people think it's bad and skimp on sideboard cards.
And Robbie Schmidt agrees. So Dan almost able to stabilize there.
I mean, how about Splinter Twin too? You want to talk about archetypes and modern metagames? Splinter Twin is a dog against the best and most played deck in the field. Abzan is favored against Splinter Twin. They've got hand destruction, they've got abrupt decay. It is really hard to combo out against Abzan. You're just, I mean, you have game. There's lots of, you know, it's Magic and lots of things can happen, but you're an underdog against Abzan when you're piloting Splinter Twin. But you know what? There's 80% of the field that's not playing Abzan.
Yeah, and that's the thing I think that people lose track of. You know, we talk about, well, this deck was huge at this tournament or had a big turnout. But even if it's 20%, that's just 1 out of every 5 decks. Like, it's even the biggest players in the format, which, by the way, was Obzon once again. It went down a little.
Yeah, it was close to 30% at the Pro Tour, down to 20% here.
Yeah, down about 20%, but like you said, that's 1 out of 5 times. I mean, sure, you might get unlucky and bump into it a few times, but if you're good against everything else, seems fine by me.
You might get paired against it twice, split those games. You're not it's reasonable.
Right, and I think that's the other thing that you have to remember when we talk about these matchups, right? It's not like it's unwinnable.
Right.
It's, you know, you're 60-40, even if you're, you know, 70-30, you're still going to
I don't think it's as bad as that. I think it's 60-40.
Yeah.
It might not even be quite that bad, but it's...
No problem. You know, also there's, you know, level of comfort with the deck. I was looking at both of these players. I talked to Robbie and I read what Dan Lanthier wrote, and both of them said, you know, like when asked what they were playing, Dan said, I'm very familiar with the archetype and felt it was well positioned. You know, he wanted to play that. Yeah, and, you know, Robbie said he's playing Affinity because he's got a couple of years of experience with the deck. You know, he says, I wanted to play a proactive deck that I had a bunch of reps with. I mean, they want to play decks that they know. Now, Robbie also said that he would have preferred to play Scape Shift. That's his favorite deck.
Interesting.
Yeah, but he didn't feel like it was as good, and since he has been playing this Affinity list for a while, that's what he sleeved up. Those Galvanic Blasts have been doing good work for him too. I was keeping an eye on those matches during the quarterfinals, and yeah, he dispatched creatures and players with those Galvanic Blasts. Really nice card that you'll see played anywhere from 0 to 4 copies of in these Affinity lists. He's on 3.
What do you make of the beard contest going on with the spotter and the table judge?
You know, I prefer the spotter a little more trimmed. It looks a little thicker too.
You're not a big and bushy guy?
Yeah, I like it over on the right there. They also have the glasses fight, which I also think the spotter wins.
Okay.
So 4 KC Brefka over there. I also may be biased because Casey, well, he's a Patriots fan.
Oh.
Yeah. So try not to hold it against him. Okay, let's gear up here for game 2. Robbie Schmidt was on the play in game 1 and eked out the victory there against Dan Lanthier. Dan, now he gets to be on the play. This is a game he's supposed to win. This is where the win percentage is supposed to go down for Affinity, as even with just 3 hate cards, they're very powerful cards against Robbie Schmidt. Like, not powerful enough that you need to mulligan to them, but anytime he draws them, Dan Lanthier is going to have a big advantage. And then the fact that he also gets to be on the play this game could put him in a really good spot. This also helps. Robbie's going down to 6 cards here.
Now, these guys qualify for Pro Tour Vancouver or Pro Tour Brussels?
Brussels is what I was told.
Brussels? It's not that far away. It's only about a month and change.
Oh, I thought you meant distance-wise. Like, it's about a continent and an ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not that far away. And they're going to have to start maybe finding some testing partners. You see that Dan Lanthier is wearing the face-to-face game shirt.
Yeah, he's tested with them when he's qualified for previous Pro Tours.
Yeah, so that must be nice for him.
I don't know if Robbie has Pro Tour experience, actually. I mean, looking at his resume.
You know, his big win was a provincial championship, you know, which is does not qualify you for the Pro Tour.
I believe this will be Robbie's first Pro Tour. Dan's got a couple. It's like Robbie split a sleeve.
You can see Robbie's pretty deliberate with his actions. Even though you think of the Affinity deck as a fast deck, he's pretty slow playing it. He knows that each decision matters a lot, and one slip up can really, really punish you with this deck, so he takes his time. Make sure that he gets it right before he makes his play. certainly respect that, especially with these affinity decks. I've seen people just make, just put one counter in the wrong spot or equip the wrong thing and the game ends. It's just, you just don't get any wiggle room with these decks.
Stomping Grounds is the land of choice.
That's not a good thing from Robbie Schmidt's side.
No, that flashes back Ancient Grudge.
Very well could be an Ancient Grudge in hand already for Lanthier. Oh no, a Grim Lavamancer too. That's a great one against Robbie Schmidt's deck. It really tears apart all of those tiny creatures that he can cast. I think it can just kill anything the turn it's cast outside of like Metal Crafted Etch Champion. Yeah, I mean it keeps it off of Metalcraft pretty nice too by killing everything else. So that's bad news for Robbie Schmidt. He is definitely going to want to try to find one of his Galvanic Blasts to take care of that Grim Lavamancer ASAP. In the meantime, he's going to have to actually consider how he wants to play. I mean, here's an Ornithopter.
Yeah, I think you have to just try to overwhelm it.
Do you? Just go wide?
How much fuel can Dan get into the graveyard? Yeah. Right now, there's only one card in the graveyard.
Yeah. I mean, the times when it gets ugly are when Dan goes land lightning bolt.
Right. Well, look, you already mulliganed to 6. Your opponent has a good card against you. What are you going to do? Slow play your little like 0 mana O2s? Wait for a Galvanic Blast that's only a 3 of in your deck? I think you just dump your hand anyway and cross your fingers.
All right, well, fingers are crossed for Robbie Schmidt as he's got 2 creatures down already. And let's see what Dan comes up with. He's got
Assault Pestermite, saw some land, saw Snapcaster.
Snappy.
Which doesn't get along great with the Grim Lavamancer.
Yeah, he's got another copy of Grim Lavamancer, which is also not great.
Right.
The first one usually eats up most of your graveyard anyway. I mean, sure, if you can completely dump cards in your yard, it can be good, but that's difficult to do.
Second fetch land, though, does provide food. Ink Moth and a Blink Moth now. Yeah. Maybe a tough one for Robbie. All right, into combat. Signal Pest triggers. Get you for 1.
And there's an Arcbound Ravager. So this could make things interesting, but we've got a response here. Signal Pest is going to get munched up here by the Grim Lavamancer. Interestingly, from Robbie, I saw one of his sideboard cards in his hand. He has Illness in the Ranks in his hand, which basically turns off the combo for Dan Lanthier. It says creature tokens get -1/-1, which doesn't actually affect the board directly, but when he tries to combo off all the copies.
Yeah, if they're Deceiver Exarchs are O3s and Pestermites are dead.
Dead 3s, yeah. So it's a nice little answer, and it's something that Dan can deal with, but he must. He just can't combo off through it. But as you can see, Dan, he's on a different plan here. He isn't trying to rush out the combo. He's trying to control the board with Grim Lavamancer. Ooh.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, Flame Slash.
How is that a nice draw?
Kill a creature and go to the graveyard.
He gets to kill the Ravager just straight up here, too. Like, Robbie can't do anything about it. All he can do is put the counter over on this other
it's not
creature.
the most mana-efficient play for Dan. Playing a third land Pestermite has to be at least tempting. Oh, interesting.
He's going to attack.
He's going to attack Lavamancer into a 1/1 Ravager.
Sure.
Daring him to eat an artifact.
Yeah, that's a trade he'd be happy to make with a backup Lavamancer in hand. In the meantime, the door is open to Flame Slash a Ravager, and that's a pretty tempting thing to do.
He can Flame Slash and play second Lavamancer?
He can.
Yeah, it looks like that's the line.
And the best thing that Robbie can do here is move the counter over to the Ornithopter, which he's going to do. Not a spectacular play here, though.
Third point of toughness is relevant against Lavamancer, though.
It's true. And Dan continues to build out his quite controlling board. Dan's at 15, not under any dire straits as of yet.
Robbie's got 2 lands.
He does. He has Glimmer Void,
more than
which
he wants.
is sketchy. Glimmer Void's actually kind of sketchy at this point.
I mean, 4 land is also kind of sketchy just in general.
Yeah. I mean, what does he want ideally? 2?
Yeah, 2 or 3. And if it's 3, there better be a Nexus or 2 in there.
Right. So he's going to use Ink Moth to activate Blink Moth. And he's going to go ahead and attack in there for a couple of damage. He's doing what he can do, get Dan down to 13. He has another Ink Moth Nexus that he can play.
Yeah, Springleaf Drum as well, and I'm not sure what the last card is. Oh, it's that Illness in the Ranks, right?
Illness in the Ranks. And there's the drum and just say go. So not super exciting here for Robbie Schmidt, but he's doing what he can do through the controlling antics. Uh-oh.
Was that Shatterstorm?
I believe so.
It is. There is one Shatterstorm in Lanthier's sideboard.
You know, it's funny. He's done such a good job of controlling the board here. He can kind of sit back a little bit. I mean, the only relevant thing it's killing right now is an Ornithopter that's 1 power. Rumble mode here with the Grim Lavamancers. They're in for 2. Robbie falls down to 17 life. Dan has that 4th land. And he's just going to pass the turn back. He could Flame Slash. He could Snapcaster Flame Slash. Doesn't want to do that either. And I can see his point here. There's really not any big pressure on him right now. Currently, he's taking 2 damage a turn in the air. There's a Pestermite off the top for Robbie Schmidt, so he will be able to continue that clock. But now Dan can spring into action. Fire off a Shatterstorm here and set Robbie back to the Stone Age. Especially if Robbie plays that Glimmer Void.
Signal Pass, Glimmer Void.
And Illness. So after this Shatterstorm, Robbie's board is going to be land, and an Illness in the Ranks. He's going to lose the Glimmer Void and lose the Pest, the Drum, and the Ornithopter. So pretty rough. And there's a Pestermite end step. Illness in the Ranks, of course, preventing any combo shenanigans from happening. Oh, look, Ancient Grudge off the top as well. I think we might just see Grim Lavamancer Pestermite beatdown win this game here.
Shatter Storm.
Shatter your storm.
Nice deck.
Whoop. And Glimmer Void dies too, right? Or does that happen at the end of turn?
End of turn.
Okay. And Crunch for 4, and this is he's gonna make short work of them. I mean, one thing that the Affinity deck does not do well is top deck. It's not really built for this.
I mean, he's got 3 lands that turn into creatures. It's not nothing.
It's not nothing.
But he does have to leave them on defense.
Yep. Also, if he activates any of them, they immediately get Grudge.
Well, he doesn't know about the Ancient Grudge yet.
I'm just saying. From my seat.
All right, fair enough.
Dan Lanthier is going to snap Grudge all these lands.
Oh yeah, no, we're going to game 3.
Yeah, absolutely.
No mistake about it.
So another Crunch for 4 here for Dan Lanthier. Activate a Nexus.
You do what you can.
Bang. Ancient
Would you like to tap that for mana and activate another land?
He does.
I mean,
might as well make him use them, I suppose.
Yep.
Dan's like, I'm not turning that down. All right, so Dan Lanthier has now whittled Robbie Schmidt down to nothing. And that's going to do it.
A sideboard card that isn't relevant to this game,
That's
a single land, and a single card in hand.
And as is proper, we get a game 3 here to decide our champion. I love these things. A quick consultation of the deck list. They're looking at each other's deck list. We let them see them just so that it's a fair, even ground, in case they've been on coverage earlier or something like that. And that way we make sure that it's an even playing field for both players. And this is the big one, right? This is the game 3 where Robbie has to face the hate cards, but gets to be on the play. It brings it back as close to even as you can get.
You can also hope Dan doesn't draw 2 of his 3 dedicated hate cards. You know what Dan had available to him at the end of that game?
What's that?
Snapcaster back the Shatterstorm.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Dan Lanthier, not a fan of fun, it seems. He doesn't want to let Robbie do his thing.
You haven't lost to Affinity lately. Affinity's the fun deck in your mind.
It's true.
Splinter Twin, just a good, honest control deck. Maybe not honest. A little bit of combo sensibility.
Okay, so Dan has decided on his sideboard plan, it looks like. Pretty straightforward for him, I think. I mean, he knows what he needs to do. And that was it. He just killed everything that Robbie Schmidt played.
Oh, yeah.
He has the tools to do that. Lavamancer can be a recurring source of destruction for Robbie's creatures. And
I mean, this is not a great matchup for Affinity even in game one.
No.
So many lightning bolts and flame slashes and
Snapcasters, right?
Snapcaster the lightning bolts.
Yeah.
Grim Lavamancer in the main deck.
Right. We also saw interactions like either of the two flash creatures. I shouldn't say that, there's also Snapcasters, but either of the two combo pieces for Lanthier to tap down whatever's holding the equipment. That's another thing that you can do as well, to just blank you for a turn.
Yeah, I mean, I think Affinity's favored in the first game, but it's not a blowout the way it is in some of its other matchups.
Yeah. And it felt really close in this game too. I mean, he beat him for exactly lethal.
But yeah, give Dan a couple sideboard cards on top of his normal reasonable game plan. No combo needed.
And it does feel
everything.
like, you know, Robbie Schmidt's sideboard plan, while it could be effective, it's a little awkward, right? Like, Illness in the Ranks doesn't do anything on Robbie's side, like, for him. Like, it's just purely reactive, right? And you got to wonder how much that hurts a deck like Affinity.
I mean, it's only a one-of. It's not like you're ever going to have multiples clogging up your hand. But yeah, I mean, how many Splinter Twins do you think Dan even has in his deck right now?
That might not even be the plan. He might just be like, I'm blue-red control. Like,
you'd rather blow stuff up.
Everything you have, totally.
I mean, he's probably got a couple. I don't think you take the combo out completely, but I think you shave some Splinter Twins.
Oh, absolutely. Especially because Robbie actually has cards that can beat a Splinter Twin, right? It's not just like, I think in the really linear matchups where you're like, I've got Splinter Twin and I will, like, if I just draw the 3 into the 4, I just win the game, then you probably still want to leave them in just in case you mize them. But that's just not the case here. Robbie can actually interact at least a little bit. If you get Thought Seized, it's just, ugh. You just don't want that. You just want to be able to kill all those creatures, and you've got the tools to do it. Yeah, I think Dan Lanthier, he's looking to grind here. Electrolyze, too?
Right.
I mean, ugh. I don't envy Robbie Schmidt's place here. He's going to definitely get a bit of a bump here by being on the play, but Dan has the tools. He absolutely has the tools to get the job done against Robbie. Robbie's going to have a very good draw, and I think have Dan, you know, not draw any of those specific cards, and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them.
Meanwhile, Affinity players around the world are all rooting for Dan Lanthier. Stay below the radar. Splinter Twin won the GP.
Yeah.
3 sideboard cards is plenty.
All right, a good handshake between these two gentlemen as they head into the game that is going to decide the champion here. It's not every day that you get a chance to win a GP, and these guys know it. This is a big one. Oh, this is a nice hand for Robbie Schmidt. He's going to be able to deploy multiple threats here on turn 1.
Does Dan only have 1 land?
What's that? Dan, I can't quite see.
It's at most 2. Does have a lightning bolt. Also has a twin, a Serum Visions.
Yeah, because Robbie's got a good hand here, man. He's going to get to go. He's going to go Memnite, land, drum, and he's going to get to play a Signal Pest on turn 1 as well. So off we go here.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's got another Signal Pest in his hand to follow up. So he's kind of got the really good draw here.
Land off the top for Dan.
He does need one of his power spells, his 2-drops, but in the meantime, he is going to be able to apply significant pressure to Dan. So Dan, he needs to start killing things immediately.
Dan did keep a 1-lander on the draw. I mean, 1-lander with the Serum Visions can be kept.
It can.
And it had a lightning bolt, so he's not going to get run over.
So the question is, does he just fire off the bolt and keep his life total up, or does he need to fire off the Serum Visions to try to find lands immediately?
Well, he top decked the second land, so he can burn something.
So he's got a little bit of breathing room here.
Yeah. Goes for Signal Pest.
Signal Pest down. And there's an Ornithopter off the top for Robbie Schmidt. So that's going to allow him to play.
The hand's got an Ancient Grudge, too.
I think he wants to, there we go. It's got Ancient Grudge as well?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Was it a Misty Rainforest that Dan Lanthier drew?
Why, yes, it was.
Oh, no. There's 2 damage hitting Dan. But I gotta say, in the early stages, things are looking pretty good for Dan, even only on the 2 lands. That Ancient Grudge is gonna do serious work
here. He's taken a lot of damage from these lands, though. He's gonna have to get an untapped Stomping Grounds.
That's true.
So he's going to take 3 again. Or, oh, I guess he can Flame Slash.
Okay, that's going to save him 2 damage here.
Unless, I mean, does he want to spend this mana on Serum Visions?
You know, he is risking not hitting his land drop again
cracks
next
for
turn.
Island? Wait, he doesn't have a tropical, right? Yeah, he's going to get basic Island. So he really needs a...
would be pretty sweet.
Breeding pool.
Thank you.
You knew what I meant.
I did. That's why I corrected you.
All right.
Yeah, and I don't think he has a breeding pool in the list at all.
No, I don't think he does.
Yeah, he just has the 1 stomping grounds for that.
Right.
So he's going to go without it for now. He knows his other fetches can find it. So here's a draw. And it was Splinter
Twin, yeah.
He's kept at least 1 in there.
Not great here.
There's another lightning bolt on the top.
That's a good card. Yeah, you probably top the lightning bolt. Bottom.
So
yeah, he wants
lands. And he wants lands.
Yeah,
That's
he really needs land.
He knows what he's doing next turn. If he doesn't draw a land, he's going to grudge something. Uh-oh. That was an edge champion, Randy. So now all of a sudden, Robbie has found really one of his most powerful spells, very resilient to removal. And he has a nice backup plan as far as Metalcraft goes, too. So now Robbie's found a real clock here. That draw was very nice.
Mountain.
Mountain off the top.
It doesn't tap for green, but any land is good on in this board.
Now this is really interesting because he's got the combo here, right? He just doesn't have the 4th land for it. He's got Deceiver Exarch there, and he can flash that in. He's going to do it on upkeep. He's going to tap down the Springleaf Drum.
Interesting.
I guess he figures
no colored mana.
Yeah, the Memnite is just
no
going to get
Galvanic
blocked
Blast.
anyway. Okay, so activate Blinkmoth Nexus.
So land off the top for Dan Lanthier wins the game next turn, right?
Yes.
He's got the combo.
Yes.
He just needs the 4th land. And by tapping the Springleaf Drum, it means Robbie can't play an Illness in the ranks. Robbie can't play a Galvanic Blast.
Correct.
Robbie just has to keep attacking.
He's going to attack for 3 and a poison, but this is huge. If Dan draws a land, this thing's over.
Top deck a land, top deck to win the GP.
No! Serum
not
Visions.
Yet. It's not like he's dead though.
No.
Very quickly going to cast it. That's not a land. That's a Grim Lavamancer.
A Grim Lavamancer.
And one of those was land. Yeah, land on the top.
So
not land on the bottom.
All he has to do is survive a turn now.
Yeah, but now he does open up Galvanic Blast, Illness in the Ranks, the Springleaf Drum.
Robbie's
is scary
top decking,
again.
so he might just play the card anyway.
True. Yeah. I mean, his opponent's hellbent. What are you going to do?
Right. And he's deciding if he wants to play Grim Lavamancer or leave up his Ancient Grudge here. Grudge doesn't kill the thing that he wants to kill, but it will kill something relevant, probably one of the lands.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like leaving up Grudge here because it guards against a top deck, right? Cranial plating off the top.
Yes, that's what I'd be worried about.
The board doesn't kill him, right? The board only deals, what, 2?
It deals 2
I mean, Exarch can block
3.
Memnite. Like,
yeah,
you can fly over for 1. You're only taking 3 damage on this board.
And he can even grudge the flyer if he really wants. So yeah, I think you just leave it up here.
Yeah, I don't think Lavamancer does anything here.
Wow, so he's really protecting the combo
I like that play. I didn't think of that, but that makes a lot of sense. Take the colored mana away so that the top deck of either Galvanic Blast or Illness in the Ranks doesn't kill you.
Or Thoughtseize doesn't break up your win
super
next
smart,
turn.
actually.
I like that play too. So here's 2 damage.
And Dan Lanthier with that play, he just won the Grand Prix, didn't he?
It looks, he did. A second copy of Etched Champion's not good enough. And we know Splinter Twin, and that's going to do it. Dan Lanthier is our champion. A sigh of relief from Dan. He doesn't look as excited as I would be if I just won GP Vancouver, but I bet you inside he is. You know, you got to sort of take a minute to let it sink in. He says he's had a lot of near misses trying to get into GP top 8s. When he finally did, he capitalized, and Dan Lanthier is our champion.
He played it well.
Splinter Twin. Uh-oh.
Splinter Twin.
Again, Randy.
Splinter Twin.